doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and thanks for choosing to be here right now. This Monday, March 23rd, we've got a heck of a show coming up today. We're talking about the stuff that's quietly costing you millions right now, and a lot of dealers in automotive don't even see it. First up, Jeremy Nowling is celebrating a grand opening of sorts. 20-store showroom on Amazon. He went live last week, and he's here to share all about it with us. Plus, Doug Karr from Overfuel is exposing why 92% of dealer websites are failing. There's the millions of lost. And how that's killing your traffic, your leads, and your conversions. We may ask Jeremy about this as well. He's an expert on such things. And then finally, we wrap up with Mike Beauregard from the NICB, who's walking us through the fraud schemes hitting dealerships right now and the red flags some of our teams might be missing. Today's all about data, digital, showrooms, risk, and how to fix all of these. Let's get into it. And first, today's auto industry headlines. First up today, Toyota and Lexus topped Kelley Blue Book's annual resale value rankings again in 2026. Props to them. Makes it Toyota's 10th consecutive win and Lexus's 5th straight. More specifically, Toyota led 8 of 16 mainstream categories with an average resale value of 53%, while Lexus topped 3 luxury segments at 47%. For context, the average 2026 model year vehicle retains just 45% of its value after 5 years, with vehicles in KBB's top 10 holding 55% or more. For dealers carrying these brands, that data is a useful selling tool right now, given that affordability is the dominant concern. Shifting to other OEM news, Stellantis announced that Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and Maserati BEV customers can now access Tesla V3 and V4 superchargers in North America. And as an aside, if you've checked out oil prices lately and all going on in the Gulf of Hormuz, this is coming at a good time when some consumers might be reconsidering electric. Owners of those Stellantis vehicles need an NACS to CCS1 DC adapter, which is available through LEV-certified Stellantis dealerships, or you can go to Mopar.com. Naturally, this gives Stellantis dealers more leverage in EV conversations, particularly around range anxiety, which that's been one of the stickiest objections in this segment. Now with an update on some unfortunate news, Hyundai has recently recalled nearly 70,000 Palisade SUVs in the U.S. and Canada following the death of a 2-year-old girl in Akron, Ohio, earlier this month. Reports say the child was pinned by a third-row power seat while her mother and another child were in the vehicle. And because of this, the recall covers certain 26 Palisade and Palisade hybrid models with limited or calligraphy trim packages, where the second and third row power seats may fail to detect a person and continue moving after making contact. Hyundai says it's working on an over-the-air software update expected by the end of March, with a permanent fix still in development. For dealers, expect heightened customer concern around this nameplate and stay close to Hyundai on messaging and remedy timing. And finally, we turn to the CDG buy-sell tracker. 4 deals to close out today. Carlock Automotive Group made its first move to Indiana, closing on Carver Toyota of Columbus on March 19th and renaming it Carlock Toyota of Columbus. Meanwhile, in Houston, Gilchrist Automotive picked up Team Gilman Chevrolet on March 16th, renaming it Gilchrist Chevrolet and adding a Metro Houston footprint to a group that already owns more than 20 Texas stores. Out in California, Hello Auto Group closed 2 back-to-back divestitures, Hello Subaru and Hello Mazda. I think those names are great. Of Valencia in Santa Clarita sold to Jerry Seiner dealerships. We know them well. In fact, they were on a Subaru segment in the past. And Gerwadi Auto Group, respectively, both closing within a day of each other in mid-March. And finally, Lapis Automotive out of Houston tripled its portfolio in one move, closing on 4 Livermore stores, Porsche, Audi, Land Rover, and Honda from Umansky Auto Group on March 17th, bringing the group to 6 rooftops in 2.5 years. Props to Todd and the entire team there. And That's our CDG buy sell update brought to you by the CDG buy sell tracker, which you can find all the time, anytime, 24/7 at cdgbuysell.com. And that's a wrap on today's auto industry headlines. Well, what a week it's been. What a week it's going to be. Going to our social stream, which is alight this morning. Eager K says, Carvana made another acquisition of a CDJR store in Massachusetts from my friend lowercase Gordon, now in talks to acquire another store in Westward, Mass. The plan is to establish premises in every state. They're looking to corner the market with CDJR dealerships. Not every state allows Carvana to put their vending machines, so they found a loophole buying up new car franchises like CDJR dealerships. And we'll tackle that topic in coming episodes. But Stellantis's partnership, or a seeming partnership with Carvana, is super fascinating in terms of what their intent is, how far they're going to distribute, and how that impacts the overall retailer world. So as a reminder, we're streaming live across all CDG social media platforms today. You can post your comments in wherever you are, and they'll come into our dashboard. We'll bring them into today's conversation. We've got a heck of a conversation. I think we're going to spur a lot of talk about one thing in particular. We're going to talk a little bit about the brand new showrooms that Jeremy Nowling has created and opened 20 to be exact just this past week. For more information, let's go straight to Jeremy Nowling, Sales and Implementation Director at Rohrman Auto Group. Jeremy, welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Sam? How are you?
It's always good to have you here on the Daily Dealer Live. So for those that may not know you, just tell us, who are you and what do you do out there?
Jeremy Nowling, Sales and Digital Retailing, along with Implementation Director for the Rohrman Automotive Group. I work with all 20 stores on innovation, tech, leadership, accountability, you name it. It's Monday, so we'll see what we're jumping into today.
You know, and you and the Rohrman Group are very forward-thinking. Ryan's been out there on social media and out there at NADA. I think he's going to ASOTU here in the next few weeks. And he's very open in talking about his tech stack. A lot of people have been fascinated by that. We may talk about your CDP and cleansing data and the percentage of data that's bad. But before we do that, you opened 20 new showrooms. Talk to us about how you opened 20 in 1 week, basically, and what have the results been thus far?
Well, maybe 1 week to launch, but it was a process that our CFO and another one of our directors, Ryan, we put together over a period of 90 days. Building Amazon storefronts. So with Amazon, we have 20 storefronts that are now live, like other sellers that are selling, everyday products on Amazon. So pretty cool experience.
So you said the first batch went live on Friday, and then they've been going through the weekend. You were part of, and you can see right here, so this is the way it looks. Talk to us a little bit about what our producers are showing up on the screen right now.
Yeah, so I mean, really, it's very comparable to a third-party marketing page, but in this instance, you can go end to end where the consumer can find their vehicle, see the price, go through all the options of financing and products, check out completely, and then arrange a pickup to take place at the dealership on where that vehicle is housed at. And so we went live in Illinois at the beginning of this month. Our Indiana stores, those 10 just went live last week. We've already had a consumer check out from beginning to end, take delivery at the store. We received our funds, and we actually have a couple deals working. I literally was just on the phone 30 minutes ago with our Kia team because there's a consumer wanting to lease a vehicle now. So it's really starting to work well for us.
And can they transact the leasing through the Amazon Auto platform as well?
Yeah, so with Hyundai, you currently can. Kia is currently going through the setup. So there's 4 OEMs that just went live with new cars. So Kia allows you to list your vehicles, Subaru, Mazda, and then obviously Hyundai.
Okay. So you were part of the Hyundai pilot that began maybe a year or so ago. What do you say to the dealers that say, hey, it was underwhelming? There wasn't a lot of sales activity in the Hyundai world when Hyundai made its debut on the new car franchise on Amazon Auto.
Yeah, Sam, actually, wild enough, we didn't go live with new Hyundais back then. We waited to see what the hype was like, and we actually were approached and we were really interested in the used cars going live. But as part of listing our used cars, we were allowed to list the new cars. And now we see the gain that could potentially come from having new cars listed live on Amazon.
So you held off participating in the initial pilot on the Hyundai New to just kind of validate it. What did you see in the used space that led you to believe, hey, this will work, we're going to jump on, not just toe in the water? You brought all 20 stores.
We did, yeah. So, obviously you anywhere that you can have your vehicles listed in today's environment is a positive sign. But when you think about the players that we're up against now on the virtual showrooms, the Carvanas and the CarMaxes and companies like that allow a consumer to go end to end on the transaction, why wouldn't you want to be on there for that consumer experience? And when you think about the millions of consumers that currently have a garage or a Prime account, our inventory potentially is now in front of all of those customers as they search.
Yeah. So walk us through, for the dealers that haven't seen this. Customer goes in, they can go end to end in their Amazon Prime app. So you can do it on your phone, you can do it on the website, and basically, can I transact 100% of it at your stores in Indiana and Illinois?
Yeah.
And
Obviously, wet signatures need to be done at the dealership.
And what are those wet signatures in 2026?
For like Indiana odometer statement, title application, any dealer-facing forms that are not inside of the platform, those would be signed at the dealership. But other than that, it's just a regular online deal.
And what about the finance step? So customers oftentimes will see value in the products that are offered in the finance office. They're intangible products. One of the challenges or criticisms of Amazon or any other completely online process is the attachment rate isn't as good on F&I. What have you seen early on, and how is F&I addressed as a step on Amazon Auto?
Yeah. So as I said, we just went live. We did sell our first vehicle. That consumer did choose to purchase gap insurance. But again, it's taking the experience and allowing them to drive it, just as we would a consumer walking in the front door that says, hey, I want to write a check, but I don't want to buy any products. So again, there's a lot of education that goes for the consumer to be able to make the decisions on whether or not that product is beneficial to them. And again, it's not about wanting us to be in control. It's allowing the consumer to still be in control, us sell the asset, and then earn a customer, hopefully in service down the road.
So customer comes to your store to pick up the vehicle. What does the process look like there? I know early on there was an idea of having a dedicated spot, maybe even a dedicated uniform that had the Amazon Auto. Has that been pulled through this final iteration? And then you talk about retention. How do you retain that customer? First, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so the consumer can choose to have a full delivery or no delivery at all. And if they choose to have a delivery, we're going to walk them through the service department. We're going to walk them through the features, Rohrmanize it, right? And just make it an overall great experience for the consumer. What we're not going to do, and what is not allowed, is we're not going to try to sit that customer down, and because they didn't choose a warranty online, try to start pushing warranties on them. That's not the model, and that's not what that customer wants to experience. And so for our first delivery that we did, that customer was phenomenal. Beginning to end, worked for a company down in downtown Chicago, drove out to the dealership. She didn't want to be videoed as our first Amazon customer. Fantastic.
Yeah. She's
That's
like, no
great.
way. Yeah,
she didn't want
yeah.
to be part of that. But you know what? The rest of the experience was phenomenal. We had balloons, a bow. It was they were welcomed by everybody and celebrated. And now we're on to other potential customers now.
You could argue that customer, depending on what their buying habits are, that might be a conquest for you, right? Because they may not have in the past driven to the suburbs. Schaumburg, for those that know, is about an hour drive. If you're coming from the city, they may have chosen something closer to home. What do you think attracted that particular customer to the experience at your store via Amazon versus a more traditional method?
It's tough to tell what attracted her. Obviously it was a used vehicle that they sought out on Amazon. And they just found the listing, submitted their information. The price met their needs, because again, that price is what I have it listed for on the website. So it's just everything aligned for that customer. There was no negotiations. It was just seamless.
So you mentioned that you can either get a delivery or not. Did she opt in for the delivery or out? Do you know?
Opted in for the delivery. So we went over the features and everything on the car.
So is there a separate CSI for new cars anyway from the OEM, from the factory on Amazon delivered vehicles if they opt out? Are you still held accountable to that standard? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know that. I don't think that any new car customer is going to show up at the store and say, I know everything about it. I think by the time that they've completed the checkout, we've created a little bit of rapport with that customer through our back and forth communication. And nobody's going to turn down understanding the new technology on the $60,000 car that they just purchased.
So as you sell the car and you get the customer data, you want to own that customer for life, right? You want to provide such a great experience that they're committed to the Rohrman organization. How do you do that on a deal where the entire transaction was transacted in the app and you're kind of the very last step? You've got the balloons, you make it exciting, they accept or decline the delivery. How do you retain the customer longer term?
Well, I mean, obviously the consumer's still existing in our DMS and our CRM. So we're still going to continue to try to earn that customer's trust and get them to visit our service departments by continuing to send out the coupons, the specials, and the experience of what they received during that delivery to know that they can still experience all of those benefits years ahead with that trusted partnership.
All right, several questions coming online, which is great. Eager K says, big congrats on the new acquisition. Eager K goes on, says, F&I menu introduction online for every deal with full disclosure should help.
Yep.
And is there a menu in that step?
It's not necessarily a menu. It's like any DR tool that's out there on the market right now. So when you think about like a Roadster or an Upstart, it allows the consumer to check the products, be educated on the products, and make the decision that's best for their transaction. So yeah, it's all the information's there for them to decide on.
Paul, another comment from Paul Salzman. Then I have a pricing question on used cars. Paul Salzman comes into the chat, says, "Is Amazon charging for this yet on the new or the used side?"
No.
Yeah. Are there plans?
I'm sure there will be a model for it. We've discussed what that model looks like. It's non-existent so far. So again, if we're all paying for all the third parties right now, why wouldn't we, again, want to take advantage of the one that has millions of customers where they already have their PII and all their buying habits for free for whatever period of time that is. And so that we're ready. I mean, think about it, Sam. We all remember when Carvana was trading for $3 a share and they were selling hundreds of cars. Think about the model 5 years down the road or 3 years down the road when more and more consumers believe in that end-to-end purchase. And our storefronts have been live for years, gathering reviews and building a model process.
Well, my curiosity goes to the next question from Yoga Cars. Yoga Cars says, do dealerships trust Amazon long-term? I.e. Amazon Basics came to compete with all partners selling on Amazon. What would you say to the trust issue, a suspicion?
Yeah. You know, again, Amazon's not looking to get into the auto industry. They're looking for the storefronts. So again, they'll look for media dollars. They'll look for advertising benefits. They're looking for the consumer gains and understanding that consumer's garage. But, you know, Amazon's not ever going to have, 20 different brand new OEM locations on there. Think about you went into it at the intro of the show, like Carvana just acquired another new car dealership with the goal of getting one in every state. I mean, this is our biggest competitor right now, and this is allowing us to compete against Carvana.
Wait, you said their goal is to get one in every state. Do you know this for a fact?
I believe that's what you said at the intro of the show.
Did I? Oh, I guess I got to go back and read it more.
I thought you said it was their goal to get a new car franchise in every state.
Okay, I'll go back and reread it. Hannah, fact check me and put it in Slack. We'll see that. So, listen, used car pricing is fascinating, right? It fluctuates continually. As vehicles age, some dealer groups and dealerships have a pricing strategy where pricing decreases. I'm fascinated by used car pricing on Amazon because what's your pricing strategy on those used cars?
It's the same strategy because they pull that inventory feed directly from our merchandising tool. And it's the same price on Amazon as it is the third parties and it is on our website. So again, I think the consumer's just choosing the experience that doesn't require that back and forth with the dealership. They can just check out if they're okay with the price, check out and pick it up later.
Yeah. And so there's an integration between. I know you don't use Viato. I think you guys use Tech, right?
No, Techion's our DMS, but we use Viato as our merchandising.
Okay, so the Amazon tool, I think it's I can't remember who it is, but
you're right.
It would pull the pricing data. So as it goes up and down, it's going to change, and that pricing gets dished up to the consumer, right?
That's
and
correct.
Then all the pricing's the same across all platforms. It's all fully disclosed. How do they deal with doc fee in the app? Just curious.
Everything's
all the new.
Yeah, everything's totaled up inside of A to Z Inc. All of your taxes, dealer fees. If you have any accessories on the vehicle, it's all inclusive.
Did the first new customer have a trade-in?
This one had no trade.
Okay. Do you own the trade? If they did,
we get the first right to the trade. Yes.
Okay. And then if not, then Amazon would pick it up and they would distribute it based on whatever method they.
That's correct.
What do they do with the used car? Actually, I don't even know that. I'm curious.
It's wholesaled out through a partner, so it's like not Manheim. It's the other one,
like an ACV or something.
ACV
like
actually is the one, and it's
okay.
They allow that a little bit of range of customers' appraised value, but yeah, we get the first right to it.
Very cool. Paul Salzman comes back into the chat and says the legacy advertising focused listing services should be concerned. And thoughts on that? How does this change the game in terms of marketing and reach by distributing vehicles or at least making them available on Amazon?
For me, I believe again that our vehicles should be listed everywhere if we're trying to earn a consumer's business and trust. So right now, it's you get lost in the pages. So think about two different buyers. So one buyer is going down the Google route, which takes them to cars.com and traders and all the third parties, and now you're lost in between 30,000 used cars for sale within a 50-mile radius. But yet you go to Amazon, that type of shopper, they end up on Amazon Autos, and now you have an audience of maybe 3,000 used cars for sale. I'm going to appear a lot sooner, and we get the transaction quicker.
And actually, to the comment about trust between dealers, and I think that's almost irrelevant at this point. Amazon has trust with the consumer, and I'm not saying dealers don't trust. I think they do, but I just think Amazon has the trust of households. I mean, we all go on there. We all buy there. We all know how the pricing works. What is the return policy, actually, by the way? So I buy a vehicle from you used on Amazon. Amazon is infamous and famous for their return policy. It's easy to return something. Is that the same on this platform?
It is. It's a 3-day return policy. And again, speaking like a Carvana or CarMax, they have a return policy of 7 days or 10 days. So a 3-day return policy on an asset, I'll take that. Hopefully, again, we've already met that customer's trust, needs, and wants of what they're looking for in a vehicle. And we shouldn't let that happen at all.
And then do you know the details behind it? Like, is there a per mile charge, or is it just you bring it back and walk away?
I believe it's up to 500 miles or 3 days that the customer can return the car. In hopes of, if that customer did choose to return that vehicle, we can switch them to another asset, would be my hope.
Yeah. Through the Amazon app, or is that open? It's probably open, right? Wherever they wanted to meet.
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah. Well, we would love to have you back on the show to talk in particular about how this is working.
Sure.
What would your message be to dealers that say, hey, I get it. I get the appeal. I get their distribution truly is elite, and no one else really has a distribution channel like Amazon. But what do you say to the dealers that are a little gun shy, saying, hey, their own advertising efforts are going to yield better results than going through a channel like that?
Honestly, I would say on those, you can challenge those against your third-party close rates. Whereas this is an end-to-end transaction. The only ones that you're handed off are the ones that they couldn't obtain the financing through the lenders that Amazon has set up. You as a dealer are retaining all the profits, so you keep all your profits on the financing, the products, and the vehicle. So, what do you have to lose? And I guess the other question would be is, you can continue to wait. I'll love it, but
you have the advantage during that.
I would say all your listeners probably had something delivered from Amazon to their house within the past 24 hours or past 7 days. So there's just so many pluses to this. And
you mentioned lenders. How many lenders do they have signed up? Three lenders. Yeah. And that's above and beyond the captive, right? So right now, the OEMs that are captive that are doing this for the new side, it's Hyundai, Ford? Does Ford do it through the new site?
Ford has their certified vehicles on, which I'm sure at some point you will likely see new Fords on here.
Yeah.
Kia, Mazda, and Subaru are all live. So all 3 of our Hyundai stores and all 3 of our Kia stores are fully live on here.
Have you heard any data from them that says, hey, here is the number of customers that prefer to go end to end without any communication by a dealership employee that want to fully execute on that start to finish?
I mean, Amazon's quiet as kept with some of the data, which is I completely understand. But we do know that there are dealers that are delivering vehicles, new cars on this specifically. And, at the top of that page that he was showing, one of the cool things that Amazon's doing right now, it's for not their Prime month, but if a customer buys or leases a new Kia throughout the month right there, go ahead and pause. If you buy a new car, you get a $1,250 Amazon gift card. The customer does. So like above and beyond any OEM incentives, you get $1,200 to buy or lease your car.
Why do they do that? Because they're not charging you a fee. How do they make money right now? What is Amazon's play on this?
When you think about it, they're driving hype, they're driving experience, and then they're earning a customer on their platform as well that went from buying, laundry detergent to buying a brand new vehicle on the platform.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my thought, but I mean,
it's retention.
It is retention. And I'm a very loyal Prime customer. I know my daughter is as well, and my son. And I think that at some point, this is going to be a new model as we've learned from the, hundreds of thousands of vehicles that Carvana has already sold online.
Yeah. All right. We want you back to talk about this. I just want one follow-up item from your last appearance here on Daily Deal Live. You talked how you had audited 2.5 million of your CRM records, and you told us on that appearance that 48% of the records were bad. You cleaned them all up. You created a CDP, a data lake. Ryan's talked a lot about that. You began marketing to those. Give us the financial impact to the organization of now having that cleaned up data and now marketing and selling to 100% legit data as per this new platform.
Yeah, we're not at 100%. It's still working through trying to find additional profiles to clean and or append for us. But we are up to about 1.8 million valid records with emails and phone numbers and obviously almost 100% of where the customers live. For us, it's led to seeing open rates of 30 and 40% on emails that we're sending out through the CDP, which is phenomenal.
As opposed to, what was the rate before?
Oh man, I tell you, it was low. It was, obviously with some marketing companies we all know, but we use now Orange Media. And so Orange Media handles all of that for us. They provide us with all these good open rates broken down by audience. Whereas with my CRM or most CRMs that are out there, it's a 1 to 2%, maybe 3% engagement rate, open rate for customers. So for us, the click-through rate is phenomenal. The open rate is great. And you're getting that message to the customer like more than likely than what you were prior.
So your most significant KPI increase is the open rate and the engagement. Probably tough to quantify the impact. I'm fascinated. You cited the number of records. You're not at 100% record cleansed. Why is it taking so long? Why is it such a long process?
Well, you got to think some of them you're not going to get records for. So if someone's deceased, or if, let's say, it was a business email and that business closes down, you're not going to get that new email for a business, right? But you will continue to gather more and more emails as your customers go to file their taxes or update their profiles or things of that nature. For us, it's been beneficial because I don't just have Sam Dark at Gmail. I now have Sam Dark at Gmail, Yahoo, your work email, and everywhere else that I can reach that. And I store all of those emails inside of my Snowflake because all of those can't be stored inside of your DMS. So I'm gonna get you one way or another, Sam. I'm gonna get that.
I love it. All right, CDP, data lakes, clean data, Amazon auto opening 20 show fronts. What's the next thing you're working on as we wrap up? Last question today.
Oh man, we've got so many things that we're working on. Let's just go with it's spring selling season and we're ready to rock and roll maybe at the Rohrman Automotive Group.
I love it. We're going to have you back at the end of the show for the roundtable hangout. Jeremy Nowling, Sales and Implementation Director at Rowling Auto Group. Go Purdue. Yeah.
Rohrman Automotive Group. Yes.
Rohrman. Yes, that's what I said. Yep, there you go. All right, we'll have you back at the end of the show. Thanks for being here, Jeremy.
All right, thanks again.
All right. All right. It's always fun to talk to Jeremy and learn all the cool things they're doing at the Rohrman Auto Group, including now opening those 20 stores on Amazon. So let's talk Overfuel before we get into our next guest. Today's episode is brought to you by Overfuel. Most dealership websites suck. They're slow, clunky, and hated by both shoppers and Google. Well, Overfuel cracked the code. Lightning fast AI-powered sites built to attract, convert, and dominate every search experience. Is it time for a new website? Go to overfuel.com and use code GDC500 in the comment box for $500 off. Props to Overfuel for supporting today's content, including that phenomenal conversation with Jeremy at the Rohrman Auto Group about all things Amazon Auto and Data Lake CDP. He's always fun to talk to. And by the way, I appreciate his complete transparency. That was a question we didn't get asked, is what makes you so bold to come out into all of automotive and be so transparent about everything you're up to? I believe it's probably similar to how we do things at Ziglar, which is the more transparent you are, the more you learn from others, they learn from you. And at the end of the day, executing on stuff like this is, or getting value from all this is all about execution, and not everybody is willing to execute, especially on some of the new stuff that's going on out there. So thanks for being on the show. Let's turn now to Doug Karr, Principal CEO at Overfuel. Doug, welcome to the show.
How are you, sir? Great to be here.
Good to have you on the show. So, hey, for our Daily Dealer Live audience that may not know you, tell us who you are and what you do out there.
Well, sure. I joined the team at Overfuel about a year ago. I had worked in the SEO field across GoDaddy, Angie, Dell, a ton of different companies. And I saw what these guys had built within the dealer industry. And I said, ooh, I really want to be a part of this one. So I am their main guy for SEO work there. And we have a study that we just released that we're going to talk about today that's really exciting.
All right, let's go into it. You say 92% of dealer sites fail Google. What's actually broken with the websites?
Well, it's an interesting thing. When we talk about page speed, Google is talking about user experience. That's ultimately what they mean. And so a lot of people think about speed as being, quote, a ranking factor, but really it's a user experience and a visibility factor. And so what we see is our entire industry is rife with problems where we're not meeting the considerations and the expectations of our consumers. We're feeding them slow sites that they get, they have difficulty navigating. They can't find what they're looking for. It's slow loading. It's slow to syndicate through all these other outlets. I loved what Jeremy was talking about there. And so that's the key problem, is that Google is saying, hey, your site has to be fast. But the reason why they're saying your site has to be fast is so that your engagement is high. Your engagement on ads, your engagements on your map pack, your engagements on your website, your engagements on your syndication. All of this has to be a high-speed experience that is just easy for the user to navigate.
What's killing the speed? Why isn't speed just a given in 2026 with so many tools and we have so much technology?
There is quite a bit. One is just technical debt. So we have older CMS sites that basically took the market by storm, 10, 15 years ago, and they can't really take advantage of some of these new technologies to revamp their sites. The second is features. So we, chat bots and 360 are probably key ones there that they will just kill the user experience and speed on the site. And then there's common ones like people put multiple Google Analytics tags on their site or Google Tag Manager scripts on their site. And everything starts to degrade the speed of the site.
So speaking of that, Patrick Block Motive Ventures comes into the chat and says the amount of pop-ups on dealer websites is brutal overall. So March 2026, Doug, what steps could dealers take to speed that up so that they get out of that 92% of failing sites?
I mean, the thing that they need to watch, and remember, 92% are failing. That means there's an awesome opportunity for a dealer to really transition and change their digital showroom and get visibility. I mean, we're talking 1.4 times the chances of ranking number one on a keyword, 22 times the traffic that they can get to their site just by moving that speed up. And so what they really need to watch is every time they're implementing something on their site, they want to take a look at that site and look at the page speed score.
Okay, and what's a good page speed score in March?
Well, Google
2026?
has its own, basically model. They have a pass fail. It's a 90 or above is basically a good, and we're focused on mobile. Mobile tends to be where a consumer starts the customer journey. They do move to desktop a lot in auto, but mobile is really that core one that we're focused on when we're talking about, where can people move the needle.
Okay. Is this just dealer or is it all the vendor partners that are part of this problem too? You mentioned all the pop-ups and the bolt-ins and the APIs and the integrations, and there's so much of that. We have an
incredible opportunity to fix this across the industry. We have actually worked with multiple chatbot engines. We believe in chatbots. We believe that pop-ups sometimes enhance and engage the user that may not have otherwise. And so we believe in those things. But the problem is when that degrades your site speed, it degrades how many people are coming to your site. And so it's great that you can convert more, right? It's like putting a great salesman in your showroom, but nobody can get to the showroom.
All right. So what's the worst in March of 2026 feature or plugin? You mentioned all the different plugins that are out there that kill conversion today, the dealer should be wary of if it's not set up right.
Some chatbots are just incredibly degrading to a site.
Why?
As soon as somebody puts it on it. You got to remember that your website is coming from a single domain or a single host. When you pop up a chatbot, you're doing multiple things. You have to talk to their host and you have to talk to their website. If they're not doing things like compression and using content delivery networks and all kinds of things to optimize their code and compress their code down, that round trip just takes a ton of time, sometimes more than your entire web page takes. Now, and then they're moving stuff on the page. So if you've ever been to a web page and you start to see things shifting around and moving and popping up, those things are really aggravating to users. And so if they can optimize that speed, we've even taken some of the chatbots and just said, hey, please don't auto pop up. Turn that off and continue to watch your conversions. And just by doing that, we see an increase in conversion rate and increase in speed, which increases ranking, which increases visibility.
Which, by the way, is an auto pop-up chat thing. Is that even, like, if I want more information, I'm going to go ask for it. To me, if I get too many little pop-up things when I'm trying to get into a site, it's really annoying because you've got to clear it. I mean, if I need a chat bot, I should be able to go find it. So
I think it's one of the things that dealers really have to test. And the good ones, I think, are they're very good at kind of preceding the customer journey, saying, hey, notice that you were searching this page, would these things be of interest? And so now you've captivated that audience, but just the blank, in your face, what's your name? What do you like? They can be, ours is, hey, test it, and see whether it's making a difference. The problem that we do see is that a lot of these chatbot providers talk about the conversion rate after they installed it. So the problem is okay, you increased by, let's say, 15% conversion rate, you increased. The problem was you lost 3/4 of your traffic because you no longer rank well. So which one is, really helping you out?
All right. So to our general manager and our dealer audience who's watching right now, what's one thing that a GM could do this week to fix the problem? I mean, first of all, you've got to know it's there, but then what do you do to fix it?
Yeah, you want to do a page speed insights test of your site.
How do you do that?
Yeah, you want and be careful because a lot of people do that and they don't have origin mode, which is basically you want to look at your entire site. Your VDP is a destination page. So testing your home page really is just one factor. Most people are landing on your search result page or your VDP, and that's what you want to be incredibly fast. So
test the VDP page.
Test your entire site because the journey is, right? That's the journey. Someone goes to a VDP, then they go back to the search, and they're navigating and they're going in circles until they find what they need. And so you have to test the entire site. And it's important to note that improving your page speed is a 28-day cycle. So Chrome user experience is basically Google monitors what performance you have. If you increase your page speed and pass today, you're not really going to see the results for another 28 days of where you climb in the rankings. So it's a big deal.
And we've heard that often on the show, that it's a long-term game. You've got to make consistent moves over time, because Google counts only the consistent effort towards goal. Something we've talked a lot about on this show, Doug, and we appreciate you giving us the insight into page speed and how to fix it and some typical strategies. We've talked a lot about SEO and GEO lately.
Yes.
How would you explain in plain English the difference between SEO and GEO in March of 26?
Well, I would say this, that if you were a great SEO person 10 years ago, or maybe let's say 5 years ago, you're absolutely doing everything that GEO requires today. Schema tagging and structured data on your site, incredibly fast website, incredible user experience, syndication of your website, syndication of your listings, being on all the directories. Jeremy talked about being where the customer is. When you think about AI, the biggest problems that we've had with AI to date is hallucinations and basically, giving out false information. So AI is hungry to validate, hungry. And so you can no longer think about your website as your website is central to the spoke. It's everything is central. And so you have to make sure that your name, address, phone number, your NAP and citations are everywhere. All of your information and profile information is everywhere. And so when we're working with clients, that's what we're working on: their Google business profile. They're working on Bing. We're working on listings management. We're working on their website. We're making sure it's all consistent. We're syndicating all of their vehicles everywhere. And we're doing ads. So we're making sure that everywhere the customer is, the data is absolutely repeatable, verifiable, fast, and structured, so that AI can really devour it and give it back.
So as I'm creating that SEO content for my website, can I use AI generated content? Or I've heard an idea that handwritten human made content is preferenced by AI. And that to me seems fascinating.
I would say that's not true personally. And we see it with our clients. Just like everything else, humans can be good and humans can be bad. What I will say is this: how you prompt and prep and provide data to AI to produce that content is what makes it rich. And so we have FuelBot, for example, where we take the VIN, we have every aspect of what that vehicle is about, but we combine that with location data. We combine that with obviously review data and everything else. So we utilize AI, but we're utilizing a number of sources to make a really rich thing. That's pretty hard to compete with if you just gave that to a copywriter.
Yeah. That's fascinating that that there is some difference of opinions. And I thought when I first heard this that AI would preference AI or human generated content. To your point, not everybody writes good, right? So
Exactly.
Those that have a challenge with that are going to, not represent their best selves. AI could do it better, but I feel like there's a human need for more authentic human-made content, and I think people generally prefer the human-made content. I can usually tell things that are created by AI, right?
We definitely want the dealer's voice in there, and verbiage, and how they present themselves and how they differentiate themselves. That's absolutely critical to the sales process, right?
Yeah. All right, last up question. We appreciate your time on the show, sharing perspectives on the importance of page speed and making sure that you're creating your correct SEO content. What's the cost of not addressing page speed? I mean, there are probably some dealers that might say, hey, you know what, 92% of dealers have slower than ideal sites for Google that aren't providing the elite experience. 8% have a little bit of the benefit, but my gosh, you're with 92% of the rest of automotive. Why not just, go back to selling cars, right? Focus on the showroom floor, Doug.
Well, Shift Digital has done a number of studies on this, on what it actually costs. But, for every dealer, obviously it's different. My question to a dealer is that if you could get 22 times the high engagement visitors to your digital showroom, what is that from a price standpoint? And I'll say this: when I go to these dealers, they've bought incredible real estate at crossroads where there's tons of traffic. They've built this incredible showroom. They have their coffee, station and everything else. And then they have a digital showroom that nobody sees because it's slow and sluggish and everything else. And my point is, everybody's on digital first. So you're just hiding your showroom when you're not, when you're not making it a superior user experience and fast.
I need to ask Jeremy about this, but maybe one of the shortcomings of Automotive today, he's opened his Amazon Auto showroom, is we calculate all those digital costs as the cost per vehicle sold. But we don't do that, to your point, with physical facilities, right? To your point, they're beautiful physical facilities, and those are just fixed costs that just exist. But in online, it adds up per vehicle, and that ends up being staggering.
Yeah. Why did Amazon get where they were? Incredibly fast websites. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Amazon is probably the king at producing the fastest user experience. Yeah. And so maybe we should follow suit.
Yeah. And on that comment, I can't imagine a better mic drop. Principal CEO Doug Karr at Overfuel. Thanks for joining the show today.
Great being here, Sam. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the conversation. Yeah, a lot of great comments online from dealers talking about the websites, but my favorite obviously is the number of pop-ups on dealer site are brutal, and I couldn't agree more with that. And, we transitioned from Amazon Auto and online to the speed of websites to the speed of the bad folks out there trying to steal our stuff. Let's go to Mike Beauregard, Supervisory Special Agent at NICB. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, Mike. So I've been in the automotive industry for decades, and back in my time at Zurich, we sold anti-theft products, Etch, some others. We always quoted NICB stats, but I never actually ever met someone from NICB. So tell me who you are and what does NICB do, and why is it such a credible resource for folks when they're trying to figure out theft in the world today? Oh, we might have lost Mike, but I'm sure he'll be back in just a moment. Because what I wanted to ask, and I can hear you, Mike, can you hear us now? All right. As soon as Mike comes back, we'll see him on screen there. There he is. All right. Who is NICB and what do you do out there, Mike? It's the third guest challenge, which we're running up against again today, I think. So let's give our producers just a moment. David Frincon says, thank you, Doug. That's reference to Doug's insight. And then Marv48 comes into the comments, says, question for everyone. How can a store best appraise a car's service records over 300 cars a day? Oh, you can hear me now? Fantastic. I'm waiting for you to pop back up on screen. There you are. There you are. Mike, tell us what you do. What does NICB do? All right. You know what we're going to do? So Mike is having some technical difficulties. And this is one of the challenges of live programming. Last time we went through this, I learned that I just need to give everybody a little bit more time because he will be back. They can figure this stuff out. But NICB, back in the Zurich days, we used to sell Etch, and we quoted the Etch statistics for theft, and it helped us develop value in the product of theft. And what the reality with automotive theft today is that vehicles have gotten more expensive. Bad actors have become much more sophisticated with AI and other technologies. And the lure of theft has become almost undeniable for the bad actors out there trying to take stuff. And so the intent with Mike today is to bring him in and have a conversation on what are the sorts of theft and fraud schemes that are hitting dealers the hardest, and how are organizations like NICB assisting dealers to identify those thefts and to fight those thefts. And you know what I'm going to do, because we are at 10 minutes to, I'm going to bring Jeremy Nowling back on and actually bring Jeremy back up. And then if we do get Mike, we'll bring him in and we'll do a roundtable conversation. Jeremy, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, man?
We got you back. Actually, you know what? If Doug Karr is still there while they're working out Mike, let's bring Doug in. We'll do we'll just do a little round table here so we don't kill kill all of our time because we got so much conversation. So if Doug is still around, let's bring him up. If he's not, all right, we're going to bring him into our third box. You know, I got to tell you, Jeremy, I drive the producers nuts because I am not a fan when we run into technical difficulties. It's like, let's go.
Let's pivot, baby. Let's go.
Let's pivot. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring Doug back in, Jeremy, and I'd love to get your perspective on what Doug is talking about on web speed, page speed. What have you identified as a problem in March of 2026 as it relates to web speed, page speed, and how have you dealt with that at the Rohrman Auto Group?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. So like if your page drops, you could potentially lose that customer. I mean, if that customer starts to fill out a lead form and then they go back 30 minutes or 20 minutes later and they hit submit after they do that customer's lead likely isn't getting into your CRM. So we partnered with our friends at 4eyes on that product. So we now capture if a customer doesn't get all the way into your CRM, and it identifies it and gives you that customer.
Yeah. Doug, is that a problem? Are you able to identify folks? Like, is that a need, a capability that's needed within automotive to be able to see people that bounce off that aren't able to successfully engage with our team?
Absolutely. And if you can't identify the customer, you can at least identify who has bounced and who has exited. You know, and you see that. I want to reiterate too. We talk about the website a lot, but you see it everywhere. You see it on MapPack. If someone clicks over to your website and it's slow, they click back to the MapPack and find another dealer nearby. If they click on your ad and it's slow, or your ad doesn't even show up because your page speed is slow, so your ad score is slow, so you don't get prominent, ranking on your ads. You see this everywhere. It's a trickle-down effect that basically impedes every part of your sales.
So let me ask you this, Jeremy. You come on shows like this and you openly talk about, hey, what are the challenges that you're encountering at Rohrman? I talked a little bit about this in my segue. And you and Ryan both are very transparent. Why do you do that? Because everybody out there in automotive is hearing these ideas and these best practices. And there are probably some that are running towards trying to accomplish and achieve the same thing. And that's competitive, right?
Yeah, I think Ryan and I, and for that matter, a majority of everybody in our group, we've all been watching the transition take place in automotive, and it's not going to slow down. So the more that we can help other dealers adapt to the newest model or the latest process or the newest tech that's actually working, I think that makes us all better. And it actually helps us to strengthen our relationship with vendor partners. Because then they're more adaptable to getting everybody to work together to make the auto industry better. We're usually the last to evolve in all aspects and for customer experience. But, some of the vendor
partners. Who are we, Jeremy? Meaning auto dealers.
Auto dealers tend to be the last to adapt. Yeah. And I'm sure that there's somebody shaking their head no right now. I'm never getting on Amazon. Okay, let's see how that works out in the next few years.
Well, you know what? I think some are slow to adopt, but also some kind of hold out with hope, right? Hoping that, hey, they can still. And, it's interesting. I think part of the debate is who's going to control the customer, who's going to control the data, who's going to control the experience. And at the end of the day, it's 100% the wrong question.
It is the
data is everywhere. Everybody has it. What I want that customer to say, hey, I really want to come into, I'll say Ziegler, but where we share a footprint. So it's very fine line. I want them to say, hey, I want to come into a Rohrman store, a Ziegler store, and I want to have an experience with you all. And sharing data helps us achieve and accomplish that. Whenever we refuse to share with our vendor partners, OEMs, that's where you get a fragmented process, right? So,
you asked me a question before the break, and one of the things that we're working on is, how do we get back at the independents? So, you had Zach on last week, and like he said, it's $50. It's 50 bucks, right?
Yeah.
So we're continuing that
Yeah.
50 bucks campaign across all of our stores. It's
Yeah.
doing great. I'm at a store right now. They have almost a 3-day wait for oil changes. It's
Yeah.
insane. But,
Yeah.
to continue to evolve together, I think it strengthens all of us together.
And you got to have a fast page speed, right, Mike, to deliver on that. So
Yes, you
Mike, or I'm not Mike, Doug Karr, Principal CEO at Overfuel. What we're going to do now is we've resolved our tech issues. So Doug, thank you for being on the show. We're going to flip Mike in, and then we're going to have Mike and Jeremy join us. Thank you so much for being here and being patient through our technical difficulties. So we'll make that switch. Jeremy, hang out with us.
Sure.
And we're going to bring Mike in. It's 2026. We landed a man on the moon, and now we got our three screen. All right, giddy up. Jeremy, hang out with us here because I think we're going to have an interesting roundtable conversation here. Mike, just tell us, what on earth does the NICB do, and how do you help dealers prevent fraud in the world?
Absolutely. So NICB has been around for over 100 years. We're a nonprofit organization. We're funded by our partners, insurance companies, finance companies. You mentioned a few of our CarMax, Carvana, ACV, all member companies. And what we do is we partner with the insurance companies and law enforcement, and we try to get cases worked. We provide training, education, and that's where I think love this format. I love this the idea because although car dealerships are not NIC member companies, the finance companies, the insurance companies are. And if we can stop the fraud on the front end rather than to deal with it on the back end where people have already lost their product or they've lost the financial interest, that's where we come in.
All right, so March of 2026, first roundtable discussion here, Jeremy and Mike. What's more dangerous in March of 2026, bad data or fraud?
I think it's both. I mean, they connect.
You have to pick a side, Mike. And by the way, if you don't say theft, that's going to be very disappointing.
Oh, it's 100%. We have so much fraud right now in California, throughout the country.
What is the most alarming form of fraud that you're seeing from a trend? Are there any new fraud trends out there?
Yeah. So what's really popped up? It's been going on for a while. Is lien holder fraud, where they go out and purchase a vehicle or lease a vehicle. Within weeks of purchasing or leasing the vehicle, they get the lien holder washed off the title. They get a clean title, or quote unquote a clean title, and then they go sell it to a dealer. And this is how we're talking hundreds and hundreds of cars, organized groups, and it's all over California that I know of, but I know the entire country has the same problem.
What can dealers like Jeremy and me do to prevent that from happening?
So on the selling part, a lot of what's going on, they're giving their right information, names, address, date of birth, all that. A lot of them are from out of the country. They have a great credit score. And so everything checks out, but I don't think they're doing enough on the employment side, right? Just because you bring in a paycheck stub saying you've been with a company for 15 years, making $15,000 a month, technology is here, right? I can have any document. I've seen incredible counterfeit titles coming in from China, driver's license. It's amazing how much fraud and that is coming in that is made overseas. So big problem.
You cited a couple things, document fraud, and AI is getting good at helping bad actors create false driver's license, proof of income, all those things. Why in 2026 aren't there better tools to help lenders and even us dealers validate things like income, residency, and whatnot? We shouldn't in 2026 have to validate that with a paycheck stub. That just makes no sense to me. Jeremy, am I wrong?
Again, we're the last to everything, so let's be last to this experience as well.
Why is that, Mike?
I'm not sure. I think there are some things out there. I know for driver's license, there's companies that have machines that you can put in a state license from all the states and federal IDs and validate it right away. CarMax uses that every day.
Yeah.
So that's one of them. But The identity theft, that's a tough one because, as we talk about this, dealerships are all about customer service, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Law enforcement looks at people a little differently than dealerships do. So that's why I think it's a great partnership that law enforcement has or should have with dealers. And I don't know if, Jeremy, you have any law enforcement that comes and does training regularly, or people like auto theft task forces that come and talk about trends. I think that's a big partnership that I think we're missing. I have some great partners here. I'm here because of one of the partnership, Dennis, who recommended me to come on this program.
Dennis Gingrich, yeah, he's a huge fan. He's been on the show many times. Dennis and Tully, so yeah.
Yes, and it's one of the things that he incorporates into his compliance training. Is he has me come out, talk about things going on. I bring out people from Auto Theft Task Force. Funny story, we just finished the compliance training. We were talking to one of the employees. They had lost a van several weeks ago. The detective I had within an hour had the car recovered. So having those relationships and being able to leverage those is huge. And I think that's where the dealers need to go.
So Patrick Block Ventures comes into the chat, says, does the NICB have APIs to help with fraud and theft validation? You're not selling a product, you're selling the data.
No, we're a member companies that come in. We connect law enforcement, the insurance companies, the prosecution. We use our experience. I have 30 years with California Highway Patrol, 25 in vehicle theft. So I get questionable claims, and I'll work those up into good cases and then bring them to law enforcement for prosecution.
All right, so Jeremy, this is, when you talk about Amazon Auto and you talk about opening this virtual showroom, it seems to me that all the tools Amazon has to validate, they've probably got fraud tools written into the tool. At the end of the day, customer can go start to finish. Do tools like Amazon Auto start to finish? Do they change the way we think about fraud, theft, and bad actors within the auto buying space?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Sam, it also takes it back to this is that person's actual prime account as well. But more importantly, the dealer is still doing the validation of that customer. So we're not delivering the car to the customer's house. We have one designated champion at each store who greets that customer, verifies all of their income, if required, driver's license, everything that we normally do on any other transaction is still taking place at the dealership.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Do you think digital tools, Mike, will make fraud less likely in the future? Will AI and digital retailing tools reduce instances of fraud down the road, or will they increase it?
Well, technology is always good, but there's always ways that the criminal element takes it and use it in a bad way. It's like car dealers. You remember the old days where we had a metal VIN plate with rivets?
Yeah.
That's gone. It's all Mylar stickers. And how easy is it for the modern day crook to get a nice computer, print out a Mylar sticker, and it's so easy. So technology helps us, but it's also taken to the criminal side.
Mike Beauregard, Supervisory Special Agent at the NICB, and Jeremy Nowling, Sales and Implementation Director at the Rohrman Auto Group. Thank you both for being on Daily Deal Live for this special roundtable. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Hey, and we apologize for some of the tech difficulties. We'll get rid of those little gremlins sitting in the tech side of this thing eventually, sooner or later. But to you, we appreciate you for watching Daily Dealer Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, we're live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which means this Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, tune back in. I think we've got Scott Painter with TrueCar coming on. We'll talk a little bit about the FTC letter that rocked Automotive a couple of weeks ago. So if this is your world, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever miss a beat. And we'll see you next episode. Thanks, everybody.